So I'm down here in Chi-Town, not H-Town, which is Houston. We're in Chi, C-H-I town, and not Chirac, as Spike Lee called it. Chicago shouldn't be a war zone. So I'm in Chi-Town. And Chi means humble. So this is a humble town. They humble before the Lord. Chi-Town humbles before the Lord. Hence, shy, timid, humble. The way it should be. Not what I experience. Chirac, the Antichrist. But this should be Chi-Town, humbling before the Lord, being shy, humble, living up to its name. But I'm down here, and we're going to go by Rick's Cabaret. Now, in 2016, and this is the truth, Victor, who worked at my firm, I told him he should go down to Rick's Cabaret and talk about putting in place financial plans for each of the girls and staff members that work in there. Go in there, talk to management, and tell them you want to help them and their staff get individual financial plans so the girls can plan today and tomorrow, and so can the staff, which tends to be mostly male. And so Rick's Cabaret I'm passing, it's right across the street from Whole Foods, you know. So holistic, that's why they have Whole Foods, means it's holistic. It takes in, you know, all the avenues to get you healthy. That's why whole. And whole is for holistic. But that's part one of it. Part two of it was with Frank, who was a pastor at NCPC, and I told him he should set up a small group at Rick's Cabaret, in particular with the girls who work on the floor and their staff. Go in there and tell them you want to set up a small group. So they can watch after their souls, so they can do things biblically correct. And so go in there, I told Frank, and talk to them and say you want to set up a small group. And you want to help these girls watch over their souls and the men that work there as well. Because the one thing you understand, the bartenders and cocktail waitresses and then the performers are all female, but behind them are males. Like my friend Adam and I forget my other friend, both of them ran that when it was VIPs and that, and my other friend owned it. And so ministering to them financially so they can plan for their future, so they can set up a 401k. And then I want the tips. I don't want them to be tip employees. I want it to go into a pool system. And the money goes into the house and gets accounted for, and the house cuts them back a check based on performance. And through that, they get W-2 income. Truly, they get a W-2 income, which gives them what? Unemployment protection. Truly. And they pay into Social Security and everything else. And so it goes from them, they collect it, and then they turn it over to the house for accounting, and then the house pays it back out. So you want to turn it over, and then through that, the house will create deductions, truly, for clothing and other things that they will do at a corporate level, giving them an expense account. An expense account. They will get a medical plan and everything else through that. They will get a 401k. They would get company match. Truly. And then they would get an expense account for things related to being a stage performer. And they are a stage performer. And so they would get a clothing allowance, clothing and makeup and attire allowance, just like an actor does. Go to any movie. They don't pay for the clothing and that. The company does, gives them an expense allowance, basically, to wardrobe themselves. So this is what they don't understand with actors and that, with corporations, that the wardrobe. And now if you want to take the wardrobe, you have to buy it out from the corporation. And so they put a fair market value on it, and you can purchase it and use it for your individual. But you can only use it for your stage performances. You can't wear it outside unless you're doing marketing. But they can also do off-site bachelor parties and everything else with their own private security. And they can do bachelor parties and truly 20th birthday parties and all that. As my sister, her husband, hired a male performer, and my sister had to have all the kids go inside and away from the windows. And then for her, was it her 30th birthday? Her husband had a stripper come to the house and do a strip routine. I was out there. He wore a facial mask and so on, and I watched the performance. But he did this for her 30th birthday party, and her husband purchased this entertainment for her, and he put up a chair, and she was in center stage on the backyard in Lake Eleanor, or Meadow Lakes, I should say. But the whole point is that he approved of it. And that's for, Thunder from Down Under and all that. That they can do birthday parties. But children can't be around. They have to be out of the room for the performance. And then once they're all suited back up, then the children can come in, but the children have to go in some other area. So you can say only for birthdays 21 and above, the 21st birthday and above. So they can hire them to come in and do a dance performance. So that means they get all kinds of off-site work. Truly. And it can be just stage show, like a burlesque show. And so you can hire Rick's Cabaret to come in and not do any individual lap dances, but you can hire them for a corporation to do stage show. And so the different dancers would come up and do their strip routine on stage, and that would be the end of the performance. So you can have different dancers come up and do the stage show at different times during their event, and there is no individual dances. It's stage show only. And so they can do that, and that complies to corporations where it's just adult entertainment on the stage and has to be a coordinated stage show. It has to have a theme. And you can take any music video, and dancers don't understand. You can take a music video and buy rights to use the dance routine and the music for your stage show. So you can do Thriller by Michael Jackson, and you could substitute the male for a female, and they can do that as part of a stage show. And it can be more provocative, where they rip off their clothes, and they can have different layers, an outer layer, and they rip it off, and then there's a lower layer. And so they can do Thriller or any of those entertainment adult videos. So again, it's a way to turn it into something that's human resource compliant. And everybody's over 21. And the funny thing is, Greg and Nardash, Greg was single, but Nardash, he's married. His wife's Indian. And every time they go out of town to pack, like when we were in Florida, I think, Greg and Nardash went to the strip bars. They went to the adult entertainment bars. And as far as I know, his wife knows. And so they would go to the adult entertainment bar. He's an Indian guy, and Greg's a white guy. And they used to go to the strip bars. They did when we went to PAC in Florida, Practice Advancement Conference, PAC, Practice Advancement Conference, and they went to the strip bars. So, again, there's lots of strip bars in Florida. So, again, this is a way to formalize it and take it from this, how do you say, darkness into something that's very compliant and that passes the smell test and that is biblically compliant. So, again, that's what Frank was supposed to be going down there and setting up small group. And then they can start doing this around the world. And then they can watch over them financially. And just like anything else, I tell people, eventually, you're in a business where your money is in your feet. That's what I tell doctors. Your money is in your feet. A surgeon stands up and everything and has to be able to move around. So it's in their hands, in their feet. You don't understand. A surgeon has to stay in good shape. Because if you're out of shape, then you'll get cognitive fatigue and you'll make mistakes. So surgeons have to maintain high levels of fitness. Doctors in general need to maintain high levels of fitness. Like the doctor I have, Mendez, he moves between patients, and you're more likely to make a mistake if you're fatigued, because doctors being out of shape. I originally got Dr. Hill and Vicky, started getting him in shape. Doctors can't be out of shape, and I'll pull it up and post it, but doctors who are out of shape more likely to have malpractice suits. It's the same thing with lawyers. They're more likely to make mistakes. Kitchen staff. It's the same thing. They're more likely to make mistakes. Why do you think I've never made a wrong drink? I never dropped a tray. I never did any of that because I always maintained great shape. So other people would get fatigued and make mistakes. I wouldn't. It's like Costa. He stayed in great shape, and he was a waiter at Mama's Boy, and I don't know where else after. But the whole point is, he didn't make mistakes. And he runs circles around everybody else, just like I did at Lowe's and the Phoenician. I was in better shape than anyone. I clear more tables. I pull more trays. I ran circles around everybody. And I did more work than anyone. So I understand the value of fitness. You don't. And these people perform horribly. And they make high levels of mistake. And so you don't understand. So they put their life at risk and they put everybody else's life at risk. Because they don't maintain physical fitness. And so they're more likely to make a mistake. So again, staying in fitness. That's why I never screwed up. So no matter what. And also when I did drugs, I was in incredible shape. I stayed in incredible shape. So even on drugs and alcohol, I was training for an eco challenge. I stayed in incredible shape. That's why they didn't have as much. It's all you. So you say drugs and alcohol didn't do this to me. Your lying, cheating, unbelievable slackers and everybody else screwed me over. All the negative, incredible negative stress, the trauma you did to me. Unbelievable trauma you did to me. Making me live with all this disgrace, putting me down, cursing me, belittling me on a continuous basis, building up constant trauma. And the subconscious knows how other people see you. And you're building up incredible amounts of trauma on me. And God wants it to end. And He wants it to end immediately. You have no right to disrespect me in any way, shape, or form. And anyone it does should be treated unbelievably harshly. But believably harshly. Deservably harshly. So I'm looking at a building going up that I didn't see before. But that means progress. And hopefully it's complying with all the new construction standards. So the building will be better than any building before. Truly. It should be. All the new concrete and everything else with the fibers and the way to pour concrete and using the carbon capture and that building should be amazing. The physical value of the building drives it. Not the speculative, but the actual value of the materials going into the building should be superior to any other building that is standing. They're obsolete. And so those buildings have to do other things to improve themselves to come up to speed. And that forces them to what? Retrofit the building. So the new buildings press the standard of material evolution. So this building, its concrete and metals and everything else should be futuristic. Way superior to any other building being built in Chicago. Existing building in Chicago. And that forces them to retrofit. That's why capitalism works. Because it punishes those that stay with tradition, that don't retrofit the building and modernize. And they get punished for not modernizing. So that's why A properties in commercial go to B properties, go to C properties, go to D properties, go to F properties. And they put valuations on the building. The building is separate from the land value. You don't look at the building in the same eyes as you do the land. So the building could be depreciation and the land could be appreciation. We used to say this for California. You have a tear down on top of $1 million piece of real estate. The structure is actually worth nothing. And because I have to demolition the structure, I can't pay you $1 million for the land. Because I have to demolition the structure. And the structure isn't worth anything to me. It might be worth to other people that I sell the material to. But I can give you salvage value for the structure. Whatever, when I demolition it, whatever I can salvage, I can give you part of the salvage value. And we can work out an 80-20, 70-30 split, where I'll give you 70 cents. I'll take 70 cents. I'll give you 30 cents on the dollar. Or I'll give you 20 cents on the dollar because I got to bring in the men, material, and my methods and everything else. Because if I do the salvage correctly and separating and grinding and other things with the byproduct of the demolition, and I can capture more from it, then I can beat the other guy who will give you the 50-50 split. Or the 70-30 split. Because his net of the dollars of the salvage material isn't the same. I can do a better job with salvaging. And I can, so I can beat them all. My end result for my materials, I'll get a much higher price. And hence, I'll give you 70-30. I'll get 70, you'll get 30 for the structure. So we'll value the salvage value of the structure, and I'll give you 30% of that. And then I'll pay you the fair market for the land. So that's being much better than others. But some of these structures aren't worth anything. It's your intellectual property to be able to do the salvaging that makes the structure worth anything. So remember, the land and building are two separate deals. That's like Walsh Brothers. You have a building corporation and you have a land corporation, and they're separate entities. And the building pays the land for the lease to keep it on the land. They're separate corporations. So, anyways, that's how it works. And people will say, well, okay, go bid it out for somebody else and see what they can give you. And then I'm not telling you how I'll salvage, but I'll tell you this is the rate we come up with. So you go out and see what they'll give you, and then you come back to me. I get last right of refusal. So you can go out and get bids and everything else, and after you get those bids, then we'll finalize our offer. And so you can get comparative market, go out there, shop the market, then come back to me. And hey, if you can get better somewhere else, then I can't beat it. Well, then I lose it. That's up to me. I might have to sweeten my offer. But I need you to give me, truly, I need those to be confirmed deals. I need to see stuff in writing. That's what I did with car shopping. I told the car places to give it to me in writing on a deal sheet. And then I took those deal sheets to other car dealers. And I didn't say hearsay. This is how I did it before 2016. And I take the deal sheets because they would give them to me. And I have them put it down in writing and signed, because if I'm going to go back, I'm going to give them the deal sheet and say, here you go. Or I'll come back and say, here's the other deals I got, and here's the other one better, but I'll give you the first right. If you want to lower your price and match it, that's what I did with Volkswagen. I shopped out in Florida, or no, Colorado. The Volkswagen dealer in Colorado was going to give me a better price. I gave it to them in writing. I printed out the email, gave it to them in writing, Jennings Volkswagen, and they said, okay, and we'll beat the deal. They could have matched it, but they said they beat it, and okay. But if they matched it, I told her I would be saving all the costs for me to go out or have the car shipped here. So I saved the shipping, or I saved the travel time out and back. And so it's going to cost me to go out there, pick up the car, and then drive it back. And so I saved that money. So if you match it, but the finance girl, she tended to be very godly at Jennings. And she was at Willow Creek, and she, did a lot with Willow Creek. And then she gave me a CD of Christian music. And so my salesperson was a female as well. I had a big crush on her. But it didn't matter. I drove the deal, and they won the business. So I saved traveling to Colorado. But it's just like the Jaguar I was going to get. Yeah. The salt truck should turn off the salter when vehicles are around it. Instead, they hit the car with the salt. Any paint chips are on the salt truck. Not my fault. Just because their engineers are idiots. So, if I had a high-end car or anything and they did paint chips, that's all on the city. So again, they just hit my car with salt, and it's like hitting my car with rocks. Well, any chips, they pay. But just like I did with the Jaguar dealership here, I had an offer in Florida, and Florida beat it. The Jaguar didn't here, but I was waiting for the F-Pace diesel, and it didn't come out yet. And so, yeah, I was waiting, the F-Pace Jaguar diesel. And it had good fuel economy, the projections and everything. So I was going to buy a diesel F-Pace. And what happened? Well, it was going to take longer. They had another 6 months on delivery in the process. And so I said, I can't wait. And I moved forward with the Honda. But I was dealing with a Jaguar dealership out of Florida. But I gave the option for people local, and that one didn't match, so I was going to pick it up at the Florida dealership. But I never bought the Jaguar. And I wanted a Jaguar. I was moving up in life. The whole point is to move up in life. Now I'm moving down to the bottom. I've eaten like they did in MASH. I've eaten liver and onions to my eyeballs of McDonald's and the others. I'm sick of it. So I want Gibsons and Mortons and the others. Moving on up to an apartment in the sky. And it's not like I will totally ignore it, but it won't be where I go, Taco Bell or the others. Truly. I'll be going to the Alenias. And then every so often, I'll go to Taco Bell because I want something different. But it's not where I'm supposed to be. I grew up on McDonald's and White Castle. I've been eating them before 6 years old. I've had enough, like that scene in MASH when they get in the kitchen and they're, in the MASH hall, MASH in the MASH hall, and they're banging, we won't take it anymore. We won't take it. So God threatened you that I shouldn't take it anymore. My life should be exceptional. But you went with the demons. So every day you show how ungodly you are. You show your pieces of garbage. As I show, like the trash conductor, he can make a fortune doing that job with better and better performance. Performance bonuses aren't capped. So if he keeps on perfecting his route, perfecting his timing, that's how they do it at UPS and everything else. They pay him on performance bonus to drivers. Do you know that? And if they keep on perfecting their routes, and if they can generate more package deliveries along their routes, at UPS, encouraging people to use more UPS and not FedEx and not others, that they can build up more package delivery on their routes, they get more and more money. There is no cap until they can make $1 million on their routes. There is no cap. But it is performance driven. You have the wage base, that is for the position. The performance bonus is always uncapped. So if you can drive higher and higher performance out of what you do, then you get the lion's share. It's like Jiffy Lube. If my team can change more and do more cars per day than another team, we make more money. And we're only capped by our performance. So if we keep on working how we work as a team, the check-in, pulling the car in, how we hit the car, how we do it in precision, how we keep on getting down our systems, we don't have a cap. It's just like Uber drivers and Pete. And John Zeef did this with bags, and they can testify that they try to beat the GPS every time. They tried to beat the GPS every time. So Pete did more fares than any other Uber driver. Why? And he would guarantee the passenger, he said, we're going to go off the GPS and I'm going to take this other route and I'll get you there 5 minutes sooner. And the passenger gets to accept or deny. And they accept it. He never said anyone said no. And he get them there earlier. Not by speeding, but he knows all the streets and that's what John Zeef did with bags. He would refine his routes, and he would get the bags there faster and faster. So he would take something that takes other people, 4 hours to deliver, and he delivered in 2 hours. He'd be done in 2 hours. It's a fixed route. He gets the bags and everything else. Then he would plot the GPS and everything else. And then he knew the routes better. The GPS would give, and then he would change things, and he would finish faster than the GPS. But the GPS set the standard, and he always tried to beat the GPS. And we used to talk about this constantly. And he constantly moved down the time to deliver the bags. He'd be stacking them in certain ways in the car, positioning them, first out. So we're the first out, where's the last out? And he positioned the bags accordingly. So he knew exactly where the bags were for each stop. Boom, 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 boom. And he make more money. Why? Time is money. If you understand the time value of money, he wasn't getting paid more, but he could go back to the facility and pick up more bags. So he'd be done with his route, and I'm like, if there's anything sitting, I'll pick up another load. And I can do 2 trips in 4 hours where other person can do only 1. I doubled my pay. I doubled my freaking pay. My pay went up by 100%. So if I'm making $20 an hour, I'm making $40 an hour. Because even in DoorDash and that, if you can beat the system and get the orders there quicker, you can take more orders and make more money. There's only caps on your laziness. on mental and physical laziness. So you cap. You're the one who decides to live less. The system allows you to live more, no matter what position you're in. As long as they're doing performance bonuses, and that's what I said in workplaces and that, it's a bunch of bullshit because I deserve the biggest performance bonuses. And I didn't get them. Baja was supposed to give me a performance bonus, and they kept it. Charlie's was supposed to give me a performance bonus, and they kept it. When I left Vanguard, I was supposed to get a performance bonus, and I didn't get it either. All these places, I was supposed to get performance bonuses. So, I don't care who you are. If you can make more tacos faster, that means we can serve more people, and I'll give you a performance bonus, and that's a rate on how many tacos you can make per hour. And if you can make more tacos than the other person, never sacrificing quality. Injuries count against you. Wasted food counts against you. You screw up an order, it counts against you. You injure yourself, it counts against you because you're going beyond your ability to do it. You're moving too fast. Safety's number one. You have to do it safely. So Pete didn't speed around or John didn't speed around and break the speed limits. They did it smarter. And so they were able to deliver faster. And you can call people on the phone now or text them and say, hey, I'm your Uber driver and I have your food and I'll be at the door in approximately 5 minutes. Text them, please meet me at the door. Or your package for Amazon. I'm your Amazon driver and I'll be outside your door. Give them 5 minutes because people don't check their phone every second. Or call the phone, and you can have an automated system for Amazon where they don't know the phone number and it says text or call or both. And they can press both and the automated system calls them and knows the number. They don't. And it connects them. It just says the address and you press call, text, or both. And it calls the number and it's like, yeah, your Amazon driver. I'll be out front in 2 minutes. Please meet me for pickup. But say 5 minutes. But they can do that. You never know the number. You know where it's going and you just press it, the address. Boom. It can be in the system. The address is highlighted and you press the call, text, or both. So they never see the number. So it's enclosed in the system. And if they want, they can use a nickname. And if they want, they can void the apartment number. And if they want, for a complex, drop it off at the office. See, I worked at places where a gated community, you can just drop it off at the security desk, or you can drop it off at the office. Like, just drop it off at the doorman. Or drop it off at the security desk. Or I'll buzz you into the lobby and drop it off there. You don't need the apartment number. They need it for verification, but you don't see it. And you don't press the buzzer. It just calls up and they say, I'm to be there. Meet me in the lobby. Or it'll be in the lobby in 2 minutes. Please buzz me in when you see me. Because a lot of these buildings, you can turn the TV set to the camera at the door. And they wear their Amazon jacket and you can see there's the Amazon driver standing outside and you just buzz them in. You just turn the TV to that. And if you got picture-in-picture, you can watch your show and you have the door camera up And, now you don't want people, they don't control it, want people to be monitoring the door in the building, everybody watching people come and go, because that can cause internal problems. So you have to have some kind of system where it gives them access when they ring the buzzard. When they ring the buzzard, then the camera activates and they can see the door. And if somebody calls you and says they're outside without the buzzard, the system is in turn through an app on your phone. It sees you received a call. They have to figure out how they're going to do that one. But verifying somebody's out front, shape recognition, that somebody's out front, and then it allows the camera to come up to verify. But you have to work out, that's a little trickier one. But again, maybe your orders go through the unit app. So when you order something from Amazon, DoorDash, or something else, now if you have a friend showing up, they still have to go through the security. The friend has to give the ID to go through the security system. You don't see their ID. You don't see the ID. They put it in and it goes through the security system, and the security system does the background checking. Like Jeffrey Dahmer would have never had those people over because they had to be verified coming in and they had to be verified leaving through the camera system. And if they never leave, then a safety check is ordered. They have to tell if the guest is staying overnight. Truly. Like my sister in Deerfield overnight, they had to move the cars off the street and she had to park them in the driveway. Because in Deerfield, you can't leave the cars on the street. And so if anyone's staying overnight, they had to move them into the driveway. And if not, the cars can get ticketed and towed if they're left on the street. And also, if you're having parties and that and having street parking, she did call up the Deerfield Police Department. I'm having a party and guests over, and they're not going to leave in the 5 a.m., and they'll be parking on the street after 5 a.m. The cars will be gone. Okay, and they give it exceptions. But if the cars aren't gone by that time, you can't leave them on the street for 24 hours. But this happens in Deerfield, and my sister called the police station all the time. So they verify an app. Just like when you're coming in at the door, you have to show your ID. It sees your face. You have to show your ID into the security system. And the security system moves at the speed of a photon and verifies. And it says, sorry, you're not allowed to enter a building. Must go through secondary verification. And at this time, you're not allowed to enter the building, and if you attempt to enter, police will be notified and you will be arrested for trespassing. And if you stay outside, you'll be arrested for loitering. That's what they don't do. You can't sit here on the sidewalk. They can arrest them for loitering. And that's why you can't have bums out here. Because if they're loitering, then everybody else can loiter. So that prevents people from stalking or people from sitting outside an establishment waiting to jump somebody, waiting for them to get off work. Like you can't park and loiter in the parking spot, which black people did, waiting for the meters to expire. I watch them come up and wait for the meters to turn to the free and they would park there an hour early and sit in the car, listen to the radio, and other people would have paid for that hour. Lopez got an hour of income stolen from them, or a half an hour, because they park before the meter expires and they wait for it, meaning they wait for the free time to come where you don't have to pay, and there's a gap between that and the morning when you start paying again, and they just sit there because people would get into that spot afterwards. Once it expired, people jump into those spots. Well, black people, and you would say it's smart, and it was, because the system allowed them to loiter. And I would drive around downtown because I had to work at Excalibur and that, looking for parking spots on the street. And I would pay the meter up to the expiration, and after that it was free. And I had a hard time finding spots around here because there'd be people, and it happened to be black people, they would be sitting in the car for like an hour waiting for to move into the free time, and then once that hour was up, they get out of the car and go out into the club. And they got priority parking. And Lopez, the meter company, got stolen an hour of time. Somebody would have paid for that time. You can't allow loitering. Whether in a car or you have to move with a purpose. And if you're not moving with a purpose, like going out jogging, you're going from here to there. So police are allowed to tell you, because of loitering, they can tell you to move on a public sidewalk. Unless you have a right to protest, they can tell you to move on. See, this is very important for authorities. Where, like the cops downtown, and they were by the stadium. They told me to drive on. Well, under loitering laws, yes, I had to drive on, or I had to park the vehicle and pay the meter. But the whole point of it could be loitering. And so you have all the bums breaking the law, and then the court, I'm going to argue on the defense side, that look at all the bums in the city of Chicago. Not only do they loiter, but they trespass. So how can you move my client out of this property for trespassing? Squatting is trespassing. Do you know that? If you move in and you stay on a property that's not yours, it's trespassing. So every squatter is a trespasser. But you have to enforce trespassing. See, a squatter is a trespasser. They have no right to be on that property. But when you allow these bums to stay on the sidewalk, to sleep on the bench from the bus stop and that, and do trespassing, they're trespassing and loitering, going into vagrancy. But when you do this and then you punish somebody else like me, God looks. How can you do that? How can you punish me where you turn a blind eye to them? And this is material acts. This isn't de minimis, this is material acts. And you're overriding the law through action. That's what the spirit of the law is about. And so you're overriding the law by allowing these people to do things they're not allowed to do. So I'm looking at the Asian House of Chicago. I wonder if it's any good. But, again, this gives people rights, like Charles Manson moved into that ranch. And what happened? He took advantage of an old guy. He took advantage of the old guy. And the old guy gave him permission to live on the ranch for free. And so they took advantage of him. And they were squatting. But they manipulated it so they weren't being considered squatters, but they were. They weren't giving anything of value. They were manipulating him. And Charles Manson's people squatted a lot. They were vagrants. So you don't understand this. In public, you have to move with a purpose. That's the point of loitering and trespassing. You have to move with a purpose. Sometimes it's sightseeing, and that's fine. But you're down with a purpose. So you come down and you're doing a sightseeing tour on the river. You're coming down and doing a purpose, like I'm doing this video on purpose. And so you don't understand how this law protects people. And so I told you, you can't have any bums on the street. So that shouldn't be happening anywhere in the United States. They have to move with a purpose. Like these people come out of their house, I'm going to this bar, or I'm going to that, or I'm going back home. But you come out with a purpose. Their purpose is to be vagrants. That's against the law. So you can't allow these people. And again, all these places, again, going back to it, you set your own upside or downside. So you can go against the Bible every position. If you're more efficient at street cleaning, truly, you notice the angles of the brushes, you maintain the street cleaner, things move mechanically correct, and you can do your route in a more efficient time, and you can do more street, well, then you get a bonus. And that's why you record the rate. How much area do they cover standard, and anything above it is a bonus. But you can't sacrifice quality or safety. So quality and safety reign. Never sacrificing either. But as you get better and better at what you do, you never sacrifice either. And that's seeking excellence before God. So all these people complain that they don't make enough money. But if the doorman is doing his job, the front desk is doing his job, you generate the grassroots word of mouth. And truly, the doorman's there with an umbrella when you get out of the taxi cab. Or it's snowing out. You use umbrellas when it's snowing too. And the doorman's right there at the door. The car door opens and he has an umbrella for you. And he has a big golf umbrella. So if there's two people going out, and you tell the one person to wait, and you go around to the other side, get that person, and then come around and get the second person, and then all three of you walk to the door. But again, you want to take from the far side first, and then the curbside second, and then the three of you walk into the door. So tell the curbside to wait, the far side gets out, you're out there, and the umbrella should be yellow with flashing lights at the tip. Safety umbrella. Truly, for doormen. I'm not talking everybody having this, and it's not up all the time. He only opens it when there are guests, and the umbrella is yellow, and it has flashing lights at the end. Yellow lights that blink. Safety lights. And so you can see the umbrella move into the street with the guy, and they have it raining or snowing. Now, in fog, it's a little different. But again, they can have yellow fog jackets, London fog. That's how they came up with the name, because London has a lot of fog. But you need those safety jackets. When it's not, and they can clearly see them, then it's different. It's not that you need to wear this safety gear. It's more when things are diminished or there's dim lighting, then they need to wear a high gloss material. Even black can be high gloss. A glossy black, like my patent black shoes, they reflect a ton of light. My flatter black doesn't reflect as much light. But I have black on top and I have white rims on the shoe. My black shoe has white rims. So the white rims, kept clean, are easily seen. So I can have a black shoe with big white rims. Or I can have a patent black, and the patent black reflects light. So they're easy to see. It's truly, when they're shined up, the patent black are really glossy. That's why they call it gloss. It reflects light. So black can be worn. It just needs to be glossy. And so it's easily seen. And so you can do these things, creating the things of exception, and people are striving to outdo anything, and they're always trying to beat each other in excellence. It's a race to the top, not a race to the bottom. So the Peninsula constantly tries to outdo the Ritz-Carlton, and it does. And then there are other high-end hotels trying to outdo them. And this is competitive intelligence, and they're all trying to do things and interpret these things for the client experience to give them the little aha, like, wow, that's extra nice. They didn't do that for me at the Ritz-Carlton. Wow, the Peninsula really stepped up its game. So you want to race to the bottom with humans, like in the dating market. You're like, here is the girl. She has poor acne, poor weight, poor this, poor that. And you're like, okay, you can accept it, but it's a race to the bottom. Instead of the health plans and the school gym programs. And part of it, they're supposed to teach you in school how to shower. Do you know that? They're supposed to teach you how to shower in school. Because we had swim class, and in swim class, they teach you how to clean yourself. And you have to clean the privates correctly. So everybody was required to shower before and after swimming. And we were told that we had to clean our privates, our rectum area, and our genitalia area properly before we can go into the pool. We had to clean our body, and then after we got out, we were required to take a shower. You couldn't skip the shower. But I believe in private stalls. Truly, in high school and that, it's intimacy. And I believe in high school, you can have private changing. Truly, this is not a public spectrum. And I always hated that. They make it a public spectrum. I want my privates to be private in that way. And only if I want somebody to see them, do they see them. So again, I disagree. And I believe in elementary and high school and that need to have it where they offer this ability to change in private. And we need to reconfigure locker rooms and that where they can pull up this curtain around their locker. And they can change in private. It's an overhanging rod. The curtain is light. And the rod can be pushed back into the locker. And they pull it out. And then it is a U shape, and they pull around themselves, and they can change, and then they push the curtain back, undo it, push it to one side, and push it back. It can even have a sleeve where the door opens, and then you pull it out, and then you snap it in. It pulls all the way out, and then you snap the far side in, and then you pull in the curtain around, and then you change, and then boom. So I like the Arab way, because in locker rooms and that, they can't change. A male cannot change in front of another male. Do you know that? In the Muslim religion, a male cannot change in front of another male. It is strictly forbidden. And so you get these people that can do it, and you can't do any type of sexual activity or you'll be prosecuted. So again, in the Muslim world, and we have to adapt to this, but they should have privacy. In both the men's and women's locker rooms and that, we need to modify them, or the lockers have individual stalls that you open the door and you go in and you close the door behind you and it's your locker. And it's, a private room. And they could have that at the East Bank Club. You get your little private room. So again, everything's scanned in and scanned out, so you don't have to worry about security. But again, we need to move to a more decent society. Truly. So they don't allow men to go naked in front of other men. Well, a man can go naked in front of a woman. But, again, vice versa. And that's why the LGBTQ is not legal. In Muslim countries, you don't understand. It's not legal. A male cannot be naked with another male, and a female cannot be naked with another female. So it doesn't allow for this. So if you're applying, it's separately. Now, on a stage show in that, there is exceptions to that rule, where the Admiral Theater, where males would come in and see another female, see a female on stage, or Thunder from Down Under, where females will come in for that routine. But it's theater. And that's why it's the exception. Truly, and that's why it's the exception. So it's the exception for medical treatment as well. A male can see another male for medical treatment. So there's exceptions to the rule. It allows, and this is what me and Sam were talking about, and he's Muslim, and we were talking about these exceptions to the rule. And there are exceptions for medical conditions, exceptions for medical treatment, exceptions for entertainment. So there are these exceptions. But outside of these exceptions, they're not allowed. So a female can't be with another female, and a male can't be with another male. It is strictly forbidden. So there is no LGBTQ. And you get exceptions in entertainment where it's not designed for their pleasure. It's designed for the pleasure of the viewer. They're not there for their lust. And that's where the exception comes in. So the entertainer on the stage at the Rick's Cabaret is not designed to get her off. It's designed to get the audience off, which is male. And so you get into this lust thing, so she's not doing it for lust. It's not about her, it's about the others. And it goes into this form of exception for entertainment. It has this arm's length transaction. So they're not there for mutual lust, which breaks the rule. So it's like the person on stage at Thunder from Down Under, he's there to get off, and the crowd's there to get off on him, the females. That's not how it works. The crowd's there. He's there as an entertainer to stimulate the crowd. And so he's not there for lust. He's there to drive their lust, but he's not there for lust. Satanic is when both parties are there for lust. And so entertainment, like sex scenes and that, they're not there for each other's lust. They're there to do it. So they're not thinking about, I want to get a Woody and stimulating. They're thinking about, how do I make this graphically stimulating to the audience? And I want to kiss you in a manner that turns on the audience. In lust, you say, I want to kiss you to get me on. And the other person says, I want to kiss you to get me on. That's not entertainment. And that violates the rule. So entertainment is an exception to the rule. So again, it is an exception to the rule. That person is no way, shape, or form, and they're not, truly, they're no way, shape, or form are trying to please themselves. They're there to please others. And that's the thing of Rick's Cabaret. The girls aren't thinking about themselves getting off, and nor should they be orgasming, because that excretes bodily fluids. And so they're there for the lust of the client and not their own internal lust. They're there in a sterile manner. They're there as a performer. They're there as a clinician. They're there as a professional. Like a doctor sees people nude. The pedophile in Boston, he was getting off on their nudity. The pedophile doctor. He wasn't supposed to be there for lust. His lust, and he wasn't supposed to make them lust him. In medical profession, they're designed to be what? Sterile on both sides. I'm not there to get off, and you're not there to get off. And we're here for treatment. So neither of us are here for lust. That's how it's supposed to work, and that's biblically accepted. So if you really start understanding the principles, where it's satanic, you're both there for lust. So again, there's a big difference, and these things are allowed. So it's the premise that you go under, and that's why God is omnipotent. He knows everything you think. He knows what your intentions are, because this goes down to your judgment. And so, again, these things are allowed, like two friends. Neither are there for lust. They're there for platonic love. That's what Jesus showed with the disciples. Sugaring in NYC. In New York. NYC is New York City. NYS is New York State. It's New York, New York, right? So you have NYS, and that's their brand. NYC is the city. NYS is the state. Yeah, and Illinois is ill, and I always thought that was funny because initially they changed it to just IL, but initially it was ILL. Ill. And it's funny, we were the most corrupt and so on, state and city, and 1 and 2, floating between the two, between the state, the city, and the county, in the country, and it was Illinois, ILL originally. Then they changed it to IL as the abbreviation, 2 letters instead of 3. But it used to be that we were sick. And I thought that was funny how that actually seemed quite legitimate that we were Illinois, ILL. We were very sick. Now we're just IL and supposedly no longer sick. That was the update. But people don't remember this when they went from the 3-letter to the 2-letter abbreviation for state. But we were a bunch of sickos. And it played out correctly. So, again, now we're just IL. But we're really, well, ILS. Illinois State. It's NYCS or NYS. Well, it's ILS. Chi-Town, and it is a town, but it can be Chi-C, Chi-C, Chi-City, instead of town. And so it's Chi, C-H-I-C, Chi-City. So we can do, Chicago can be Chi-City. No longer Chi-Town for the city itself. CIH-C, Chi-City. And so, again, you know, is Chicago a rising? So, I'm wondering what's happening with the new Bally's Casino. I'll take a ride by. But Chicago went west. Body chef do it. Body chief do it. Chef is without the I. C-H-E-F. C-H-I-E-F is chief. That's where you get the EF. So it says body chief do it. But anyways, are we moving to a higher evolution? Because we tore down the projects here, and it was to move Chicago to a higher level, getting rid of the ghettos. Then we tore down the Robert Taylor homes, getting rid of the ghettos. And then we're tearing down the low-rise housing that was the ghetto. Chicago Arising, getting rid of the garbage. Right? That was the whole point of it. That was Mayor Daley's thing when he moved into the South Loop in Central Station. He did all this. This used to all be projects. There used to be no Target here. This was all projects. And it's no longer. So I'm for a better city. And you know what the police can do? When we get better citizens, what did the police look for? They have better eyes on who? Foreigners. Because when you get a good domestic population, it can watch for terrorists that much easier. Truly. But if you're so bogged down with the disgust and filth of the domestic population, it makes you very vulnerable to terrorists. But if you're not bogged down with the domestic population because they follow the rules and they're more holy, like here's Park Church I used to go to, the 5:30 Mass or service, Mass in Catholic, service in everything but Catholic. So the 5:30 service at Park Church. But the thing is, they don't get bogged down, and so they can protect you from all the outside. Truly, from the internet, from email scams, all of that. If you don't have much of it domestically, then the Chicago police can have their cyber crimes unit watching for phone scams, email scams, truly text message scams, all forms of cybercrime. So they should be expanding their cybercrime units, their terrorist units, and you don't want gangs coming in, and they're looking for people outside that come in to start criminal organizations. So that means they're doing what they're supposed to do, protecting the citizens of the city from outside villains, because the people in the city have been vetted and proved to be good. It's not like they don't have to monitor, but in general, overwhelmingly choose to do the right thing. And so that means you can have tourism and not worry about things, because they can focus on making sure. And that's what New York and other cities had problems, is the outliers, the people coming in from the outside and doing it. And that's why New York has great exposure, in Los Angeles and these tourist destinations tend to be hot spots, because the police are so caught up with domestic stuff, gang activity, the mafia, other internal crimes, that they ignore all the outsiders. And so the outsiders can get away with the crimes. That's what happened with 9/11. The federal, the state, the county, the local are so fucking bogged down with chasing internal boogeymen that they can't watch the foreign students. They can't watch the foreign tourists, the foreign businessmen, per se. And these foreigners who come in, and they're so bogged down watching and looking for the internal badness that the external people are forgotten about. And that's where all the evil comes from, a lot of it, because they bring it in and they start these evil operations. And so again, they can be watching for all that. And so when you get medical tourism like the gypsies, they came in and they were robbing at the Excalibur and a lot of other places, and they're white Europeans, and they robbed Children's Hospital blind. And they're so busy, bogged down with all the bullshit from the domestic population, that the domestic population doesn't understand. You're cutting off the nose to spite the face. So you're creating so much action that they have to be focusing on internally that all the external threats get ignored. Where if you can get rid of all the internal threats, truly, and that means ADT, private security, and all that, and buildings do all their vettings and that, and they monitor the stuff, and you put in the security systems correctly, then it's easy to watch outsiders. Your greatest threat, right? Would be, but the greatest threat is an internal threat. But if you cleanse the internal, which the church was supposed to be doing, you can't go to a church and not atone and repent. And if you're not willing to atone and repent for your sins, then you shouldn't be in the church. And I told people that. You're here to atone and repent. And if you're not willing to atone and repent, then you can't be here. So if you're going to bury your then we don't want you. We want people who are reborn. Those are the born agains that have cleansed themselves and that want to stay on the righteous path. So we want the born agains. As the Jewish girl on the North Shore, her husband's a prominent doctor. She's a Christian, married a